Hello, my name is Sean Lacey of Lacey Maths and Stats Consultancy, and in this video I'm just going to give a very quick demonstration of how to label outliers in RStudio using the ggplot function. So labeling outliers very much kind of some ways I suppose similar to what you'd actually see in the thumbnail to this video as well. So the first thing is I just need a bit of data. So what I'm doing here is I'm just going to be selecting creating a bit of data randomly. So I'm going to look at where there's going to be 40 participants. They're going to be measured across 2 time points, and they're split into this kind of low and a high grouping. That's basically the data I'm going to look at here. This is what we get back. I'll just give a view of that there just so we can see it down here in the console. And so what we have here is we have a data frame. There's an ID mechanism, whatever way you want to, I suppose you're keeping track of your participants. There's between subjects factor of low with a low or high setting. Then there's a within subjects factor of being time. Okay, so 2 time points. Just for the purposes of, because it's obviously going to be generating a graph. So when it comes to the between subjects factor, I'd like the low to be the first setting and then the high to be the second setting in that order. When I'm generating the graph, and I'm going to generate it by default first in ggplot, and then kind of look at just how do we label the outliers. So I need the data to be in a long format. Okay, I need the data to be in a long format. Then here I'm just specifying just that the time measurements, time 1 and time 2 are going to be labeled as how they are set is T1 and T2. That they'll actually be called time 1 and time 2. So that's just kind of my line 18, line 19 is just kind of labeling that within subjects factor, the levels to the within subjects factor. Line 21 is actually making it a factor. Actually, I'll just do that there first, just kind of view that, just loading there, and let's do this here like this. So you can just see by putting it into a long format, this is the format we need it to be in to actually generate the graph. So now we have the ID mechanism, we have the between subjects factor, we have the within subjects factor, and then we have actually the measurement. And the first bit here is I'm just going to generate the box plot by default first. Here I'll just widen that a fraction. Now if you're interested in more like the purpose of this video is just solely to label outliers, okay, labeling the outliers with a participant ID or something like that. If you'd like kind of more, I suppose, background information on the different, I suppose, capabilities and or functionality to editing or formatting a box plot, there's a link below to another video that I have that goes through a range of different things that you can do when it comes to box plots in ggplot. But here, if I take this by line, what I'm doing here on line 26 is I'm going to put in the whiskers. So generate the box plot, put in the whiskers. Here then is I'm just specifying that when it comes to the outliers, that I want the outliers to be of a particular size and a particular shape. That's what I'm doing here. Then here's the theme. Then labeling the X and the Y axes at the end of line 27. Line 28 is I'm scaling the Y axes. Line 29 is I'm increasing the font size and then just picking a particular color for actually the boxes. And this is what I'll come back with. Okay, so this is quite nice. The one thing that I would just feel obviously is really missing here is that when it comes to these outliers, so we have 2 outliers in this case, that they're not being labeled by a participant ID. Okay, so if I come down a bit further here to the script, so what I'm going to look at doing is I'm going to use this function that I came across on Stack Overflow. I've given the link there on my line 32 for if anyone wants to kind of get any more background information on that. What we're going to do then, so this is kind of a way of, I suppose, labeling a measurement to whether it is an outlier or not, and how we classify an outlier is if it's more than 1.5 interquartile ranges away from the closest quartile, whether it be the first quartile or the third quartile. Then what I'm doing then here on my line 38, 39 is I'm going to create this kind of outlier labeling mechanism or variable, that will it will output the participant ID if it's an outlier, and it'll leave it blank if it's not an outlier. So I'm going to create this outlier variable, and then I'm mutating it onto the data frame that I actually have. Okay, so I'll just here, and when I'm creating that outlier variable, it obviously needs to be grouped by factor and time, because that's how we're classifying the outliers. It's by factor and by the time. So if I do that here, we get this back. That seems to work out okay. Oh, actually, sorry, it didn't, because I never actually did loaded the function. So now it will work out okay. And if I just run this off here a second, actually, you need to view that, just so we can just see it. So you can just see now there's an extra variable here. The first, which is basically blank for a lot of it, there should be 2 outliers. So I should see down here, further down, look, there we have, there are 2 outliers. Okay, so here's the 2 outliers, and now we're going to have a label next to them. So you can just see that's quite easily done. And all I'm doing then is I'm taking the plot that I generated earlier. I'll just put that up on the right hand side of the screen there so you can just see it. So here's the plot that generated earlier, and I'm basically annotating over it using this new labeling ID, so using the geo and text, and then it's just position dodge is just when you're producing this, where the text appears mightn't necessarily be where you want it to appear, so you might want to position it vertically and horizontally, and you might want to change the size of the text, and you might want to change the color. So that's all just the various bits and pieces that I'm doing there at the end. And this is what we come back with. And to me, this is good. This is something I would use a lot in my own work. It's obviously where now the outliers that are appearing, but now there's obviously a labeling. We're labeling outliers by participant ID. Okay, so that's really the aim for this video. It just, I suppose, as a concluding point, because some people might be interested in, obviously in the thumbnail, I use this kind of data, but I've labeled the outliers a bit differently for the thumbnail. If you're interested in how I actually created the image for the thumbnail, I'll just kind of show you here. So I'm just going to create a second outlier variable. So what I did, obviously there's two outliers, so I wanted to use this kind of message, hello, I'm an outlier and should be investigated. So what I did is I created this second variable called outlier. Thumbnail is what I'm purposely calling it, and it's going to output this message if something is an outlier. Now, if I do this here, this one, and if I view df like this, you're going to have another one here, and if I scroll down here for this one, you can now see, look, the message is appearing. But the thing is, the message is appearing consistent twice, but what I did in the thumbnail is the first one is hello and the other one is kind of the me too message. So what I wanted to do then is I wanted to update the second one. So what I basically, I mean, it's not necessarily the most efficient bit of script, but I looked at isolating that second one. So if at time 2, where the factor is low, you're going to come across a thumbnail, an outlier that says hello, I'm an outlier, and so on like that. Change that to me too is what I'm doing there. Okay, so it's where I'm just outlining that isolating that bit of text. Do it like this here. I'll view that again just so you can see. And if I shoot down here, you're now going to see, look, the message has been updated. Hello, I'm an outlier is the first one, and then me too is the second one. And now I can just generate this plot again like this, and that didn't work because I didn't actually run off P3. What I just meant to do here is I first needed to generate the graph. Apologies about that. So here it is. So there's the graph, okay, with the labeling, and then obviously for the thumbnail, I get rid of the or I remove the axes and stuff like that. So if you're interested in that, in line 58 kind of removes the labels, line 59 removes the scaling, line 60 removes the legend, and then this is the graph, and this is the graph then I would have used for that thumbnail. So just could be some of you might be interested in that, and I said I just demonstrate that at the end as well. Okay, so look, that's it for this video. If you find the video good benefit, please feel free to like below. Like I said, there's a link below in the description that links to another video that I have up on YouTube, which looks at different kind of editing formatting that you can do when it comes to boxplots as well. Okay, but the purpose of this one was simply just to show how to label outliers. Okay, but look, that's it. Please, if you find the video is good, feel free to like it, subscribe to the channel, and you'll get updates on when the latest videos are appearing and so on like that. But for the moment, all the best.